companies our money is to stop wasting food, right? Get everything you can out of it. And I'm willing to bet we've got some suggestions here from Kristina and others on how to get more out of the produce you're buying from the grocery store. Because if I understand correctly, some of that stuff, you can plant it. Like you can buy it from the grocery store and just plant it. And now you've got your own, and you can stop going to the grocery store for that thing, or, you know, at least during the harvest season. So with that, I want to turn this over to Kristina. I'm super excited to learn more about lazy gardening.
And I mean, you hit the nail on the head, both of you. That's really where the spirit of all of this comes from. Now let me preface this where we have some real farmers in the house that grow, you know, acres and acres of food. This space, it's not that it's not for them, but this is for the people kind of with the brown thumb and the enthusiasts. And that's where it started for me, was just going to the grocery store and then noticing that, like, oh, cilantro comes from coriander seed. That's a bunch of seed right there. It's only $1, you know, and then I could just come home and plant it. And so I started, but really, and the purpose of doing this, it doesn't matter if you grow 2,000 tomatoes or if you just get one hanging tomato plant, and you get to have, you know, 20 tomatoes off of that. But that connection to that one piece of food, it doesn't matter if you buy some green onions and then you decide to put those in your windowsill and then they just keep growing for you. You know, it's like magic. And it's that spirit and that connection to getting connected to your food, even on your windowsill, that I think makes all the difference. And it almost, to have that connection to your food, it really is almost a spiritual thing. I won't get too hippie on you guys, but just for us brown thumbs
Power.
but for us brown thumbs to, like, you know, scatter some seeds and see things grow is so magical. And that's why on the top of my list, I started with mint. And this is funny because this meme goes, those who know, and, you know, those who don't know will find out. Because you can start with just, guys, you can, go ahead.
No, that was you.
Yeah, you can grow mint. You can buy it from the grocery store, and if you pull some of the leaves off of the bottom and you set this in a glass of water, and in the same way, basil, you can actually start these plants in your windowsill.
They will grow roots directly from the leaves?
Not the leaves. You pull the, okay, let's go with basil for a second. Say you get one of those small plastic packages that have a bunch of basil in them, and you're going to use it for your cooking. So you rip off the basil leaves, use that for the flavor with your spaghetti or whatever you're cooking, but now you have a stem left behind. It's really fun. You can just put this in a glass of water on your windowsill, and if you give it about a week and change out the water, that's important, guys. Don't let it get moldy and nasty. But it will start to sprout roots if you're lucky, and you can then have your own basil or mint. So that is one of the tips, and that's fun. But I chose mint first because as a young girl, I used to run around my grandpa's dairy farm barefoot. And there was this cool little stream that would go through the back of the pasture. And there was this plant, and it was freaking everywhere. But then you would walk through it, and this aroma would just blossom through the air. And that was mint. So mint, it's almost like a curse to give to a new gardener, because if they plant it by seed or by little starters, it will just take off and it will take over. If you plant it by a stream, especially, they love that. And so that's the first tip of the day. I wonder if anybody has any natural mint patches growing. Go ahead, Johnny.
You know, I am more in the tropics and haven't had quite the success with mint, though it is possible for us to grow it. But yeah, you know, I wanted to put, I put down in the comments about the moringa tree. You know, the moringa tree is known to cure 300 plus diseases, and it's got just incredible nutrients in it. And Yeah, it grows super fast. So you can even grow it as an annual if you're up north, where you know, it might not survive the winter frost. And yeah, you can eat the leaves and the seeds, and the flowers are beautiful. They're like little white, tiny orchids you can put in your salad. And yeah, you can order the seeds online, and you can eat those as a multivitamin. They're gonna have all that nutrition. It's like nature's multivitamin, way more bioavailable. And yeah, you can plant them, and then have some plant a bunch in pots. Have some gifts to give to friends, and then yeah, so moringa tree. It's a good one to have, and it's very, very resilient. So you talk about lazy gardening. This is one that's once you get it going, it's gonna be it's probably gonna stick around a while.
That's awesome. So that sounds kind of like level 2 lazy gardening. Because it takes some effort to get it going just a little bit.
Well, okay. But no, Johnny, you're so right. My son, he's 11 now, and he grew up on the chicken farm. And we had some moringa trees growing. Some were in pots. It was funny because the one that we planted is kind of like a landscaping kind of like add-on or an afterthought. That's the one that took off. And so my son would come out the door in the morning, and he'd go by the moringa tree, and he'd just take his hand and he would strip all the leaves, and then he's sitting there like, well, you know, munching on the branches and everything else, which is so funny because he's a picky eater. But he would just take branches off of this tree and just chew on it. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, you mentioned chickens. You know, this is not only is it super good for us, but this is good for the chickens, the cows. Get more milk, better milk, more eggs, better eggs. Keep the animals healthy. And yeah, no, you're talking about lazy gardening, but you know, there's some passive ways that we can set up our management of our animals. That's really beautiful. That's maybe not totally lazy, but at least a little less labor intensive. You know, and this is, I feel like, guys, this is also where they really want to take away our sovereignty, our self-reliance from us, is, you know, with the likes of the bird flu and banning chickens in our different jurisdictions, and you know, cattle, talking about fixing the weather by taking the steaks from us. So animals, guys, if you guys are in a position to have these, you know, a lot of people don't get chickens because they think, oh, well, I'm going to go out of town for a couple weeks every year. And it's like, well, your neighbors would love to come and feed the chickens and collect some eggs for you. And what did Mark Twain say? He says, it's a good thing to do to ask a favor of a neighbor to help establish relationships and get that community vibe going. So
yeah, Johnny, I was going to ease them into it, but you're 100% right. Chickens are a gateway drug to farming, because once you get chickens, then you're throwing them the scraps and you're hanging out, and then you're getting the eggs, and then sometimes you can feed them peppers and get those extra like dark rich eggs, and then you might get some Easter egg chickens, and you can have blue eggs and green eggs. But they're such a gateway drug, because once you start there, then it's just like it's over. You're locked in, you're connected, you're having fun.
That's awesome, but let's back up. Let's ease them in. I don't want to intimidate anybody. You know what I mean? That, like, the idea of getting chickens is so attractive to me, and equally intimidating. So I need like 5 or 10 more steps. Like, I need to put a stem in a windowsill first. You know. Okay. But I am stoked for it. And by the way, real quick, I see a couple folks down there that have got some pretty large accounts, and you are so welcome to hang out down there and join us that way. But if you want to come up on stage, we won't call on you unless you want to speak. But it really boosts the signal for the space and might bring some other folks to come in and listen. So if you don't mind hopping up, we'd love to have you up here just to hang out and boost the signal for the space.
Okay, I can't indoctrinate them into chickens yet. So we're going to go back to the windowsill. I don't know if a lot of people know, but even romaine lettuce, you could chop it all the way down to about 2 or 3 inches. And then if you put that in a glass of water, it will give you a whole nother flush of lettuce. And I didn't realize how easy it was to rehydrate old lettuce in the fridge. It's just kind of starting to get wilty. If you soak that in a bowl of cold water, it will turn into almost restaurant quality lettuce all over again. So starter pack for Damo, green onions and chives in the window in a glass of water. you're making your eggs. Oh, you can't have eggs yet. Soon again, someday.
Soon. God, I hope soon.
Yeah, but what a cool feeling to be like chilling, cooking some scrambled eggs, and you turn around to your windowsill, grab your scissors, clip, and I mean, you've got fresh chives, fresh food that's been around you and your energy and everything that you watched grow, and it brightened up your kitchen with this beautiful green. And then you're throwing it in your food and you're eating it. I mean, it doesn't get much cooler than that. Yeah, Kim, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm late. I was in a meeting, but I wanted to say that I always, when something calls for fresh herbs, I always buy the ones that are a plant at the grocery store, because even if I kill it, I've got fresh herbs for a couple of months, because it might take me a couple of months to kill it. But then, because whenever you buy like the clipped ones that are in the package, one, they're super duper expensive, and two, they don't last for very long. But if you have it in dirt, it will last you for months and months and months.
You're
totally. Yeah, and they're not as fresh, right? They're technically fresh because they're not dried, but who knows how long they've been hanging out. When you clip it,
basil, I think that like clipped basil tastes like black licorice to me, so I like it fresh.
Yeah, and so basil, I grew up with an Italian mother. She used to make her sauces from scratch, and we had a basil plant on the backyard, and she would have me run out and clip a few leaves for the sauce. And it was a special interaction between me and my mom, and it really does taste better. And I don't know how many people buy into this. I would love to see some research to confirm or debunk it, but there's kind of this idea of vitality of food, that the sooner you eat it after harvesting, the more alive it is. And it might be a simple matter of the availability of the nutrients versus them sitting on the shelf for any amount of time and degrading. But I just really like the idea of picking it, wiping it off, and getting it in your food.
Oh my gosh. Anybody that's had a garden fresh tomato knows that tomato practically explodes in your mouth. You can really almost taste and feel the vitality if you're just picking it right off the vine and eating it. And it kind of goes back to also what Ranch Mama was saying about, these people love their cows. They put good intentions and good energy into their food. And we might not have robust, actually, we do have a lot of scientific data backing all this up, but we know that when we take care of our food, it takes care of us. It is filled with more life. It's filled with more meaning and purpose if you're sitting there singing to it, playing it country music or classical or maybe rap. I'm not sure if that works well, but building a relationship with your food, it not only helps on a health level, on an energetic level, but I really do believe that it helps on a spiritual level.
And even like praying over it or meditating over it, there's an energetic aspect of this. I believe truly. We are, as we talked about on Monday with Nick, we are electromagnetic radiators, and all living things, I believe, are. So as we sort of put those vibes out, it does impact the environment around us. And I think that's true of our food as well.
And I've spoken in the past with the Beef Initiative, and it matters how far your meat is transported before you eat it, because you really have to think about an animal stressing out. It's got cortisol rushing through it in these, the bad ways. Like, and I can feel the difference. I'm very susceptible to anxiety. I have to watch what I consume, keep my magnesium up. But if I eat a lot of this kind of commercial chicken and so on and so forth, I swear it has an effect on my hormones, on my anxiety levels, of my health levels. And so really just taking back our sovereignty. And I hate to see foods in the grocery store that have been bred or grown to not have seeds. And I see that and it infuriates me. It's just, don't take our seeds away.
Man, you must hate bananas.
I give them a little bit of a pass. But one plant for our tropical gardeners and for our people with like really sandy soil, again, this kind of brown thumb hack is there's a lot of these plants that love to be abused. Basil, it actually kind of loves to be abused. If you do, Kim, also, when you buy that store-bought basil, remember that a lot of those plants have been grown under lights and that they've been given a lot of nutrients. And so if it comes home and it does die at first, don't give up on it. That plant might be going through shock, but, you know, reduce the leaves and just love on it, or even throw it in kind of a desolate part of the garden or landscape and see if it decides to take off. But keep in mind, don't get discouraged if you buy one of those plants and then it goes into this kind of shocky phase. But aloe loves places you wouldn't think that it loves. Basil loves places that you wouldn't think it loves, that rocky soil. Rosemary loves to be a landscape item, you know, and you can just pick a sprig of that and add it to your chicken. Now, speaking of sandy soil and fruits with a lot of seed, is papaya. This is huge. I was having a lot of trouble growing anything on the farm because we had the combination of livestock, and my chickens.
Where was this farm? Was this in Florida?
Yeah, southern Florida.
Okay, so difficult soil.
Oh my God, it was sand, guys. It was sand. We had 10 acres of sand. That's what it was. But papayas like saved my hope, and like, because I took these seeds from a store-bought papaya. Obviously, you want to source organic, non-genetically modified, so on and so forth. But whatever. I grabbed a handful of these seeds, and I went out one night, and we had a bonfire, and I was just like drinking my beer, and I was letting the land talk to me, and I'm scattering these papayas. We grew like 20 papaya trees that year. The horses might have decimated half of them. That's okay. But that is such a great landscaping plant. It loves disaster. You can plant it anywhere it's going to grow. When it gets to about half-life, you do want to chop it in half. I didn't do that, so mine fell over. But then more branches.
What does that mean exactly, chop it in half?
Like literally, it grows to be like up to about your belly button, or somebody with more gardening knowledge will, you know, advise you better on pruning than I will. But when it gets to be about shoulder height, you can literally chop that plant in half, and then it will send out 2 or 3 branches of papaya. If you have one of the taller growing species, you'll get like triple the papayas. And we had so many papayas that I didn't know what to do with them. But then I started.
Man, they grow big too, right? Because you're talking about the Central American papaya as opposed to the Hawaiian ones that are smaller.
Oh yeah. This is store-bought papaya life hack.
They're so big.
They were so big that they collapsed some of the trees. But they're anti-parasitic. The seeds are. Papain and like latex actually comes from the sap of the papaya. But I didn't know this, but you can eat them green. So you prepare the green papaya the same way that you would potatoes.
Oh man, and I've got a green papaya chicken ginger recipe soup. Oh my God, it's so good.
You have to share that because that sounds amazing. Amazing.
We might have to do a recipe challenge at some point.
Oh, it's so good. It is so fresh, and like, I mean, just you get all of the nutrients out of there. And the papaya, I mean, it just stands up so well, especially the green papayas in soup. You know, you kind of get some of the toughness out of it when you cook it like that.
Kim, I love basil, but I hate black licorice. Make that make sense.
Right? Exactly. And when you get those trimmed herbs, like sometimes obviously you're in a pinch and they don't have a basil plant there, right? So you have to buy them. But if you don't eat it like that day, it turns into black licorice. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that with this, like, because cilantro is one of those things that I do buy chopped. But if you just stick it, you know, wash it really good, make sure there's no rot already in there, and then put it in a cup of water and put a Ziploc baggie over the top of it and put it in your fridge. It will last for months.
Yeah, Johnny.
Yes, y'all. I just wanted to touch on fig trees, you know, or I'm sorry, I want to say mulberry trees. you know, the mulberry tree is a tree that we can grow where it's cold or where it's warm. So this is something that we can do wherever we are. And the mulberry trees are one of these trees that are very easy to take from cuttings, right? And trees need to be pruned, or they don't need to be pruned all the time, but it's good to prune most trees every year or so. And so, you know, when we're pruning the tree, a lot of times we want to take those branches that are overlapping or the ones that are towards the center that to kind of produce a little more airflow in the middle. And when we take those cuttings, we can take those and all at once. You talk about lazy gardening. So here's a lazy way to do it. You can take all of those, put them in a big bucket of dirt, in some wet soil, and put them in the shade somewhere. And just keep them wet. And since they're in the shade, you shouldn't need to maybe water them, but maybe, you know, once or twice a week. And so now a couple weeks later, you're going to have a ton of cuttings that have rooted, and you can now, you know, that you got something of a little more value, you can put a little more time and effort into it. And you can separate those and put them into different pots. And this is just going to make a tremendous gift that could really, you know, be something that gets somebody started on the way towards self-reliance. And these trees, they grow super fast. They're so tasty, full of nutrients. You got to let the food be the medicine.
Exactly. I love it. And you know, sometimes I feel like I would walk around and like some plants would be like kind of like calling to me. They're like, do something with me. And then I would Google and find out that like, oh, you can take clippings of this and like Johnny said, just throw it in a pot of soil. So please to throw up a hand, grab a mic, tell us about some of your fun, you know, volunteer plants or things that just started growing or things you love to grow. I believe.
Oh yeah. I a real quick an anecdote and also just a reflection. So I lived in the Bay Area for a while, and for all of California's troubles politically, it is a gorgeous state that's incredible for growing things. And I lived in the Bay Area. I lived in Oakland and Berkeley, and I had a crunchy friend, and she knew all the spots in Berkeley where like fruit trees were growing, like publicly, like on a public street. And she knew of a mulberry tree, a specific mulberry tree, and she knew when it was fruiting. And we took a little outing and went down to this mulberry tree and climbed it and harvested all these mulberries. And I had never had them fresh before. I've only had like dried mulberries. And they were so delicious, and it was so fun to go and harvest them. And mulberries are an interesting plant. They're one of these fruits that they're nutritious, they're delicious, they're not commercialized, so most people don't know about them because they're hard to keep. They don't keep well. So you don't see them being grown for commercial use because you can't ship them to the store and let them sit on the shelf. I didn't know, Johnny, that they grow so easily. So that's really fun to know. So if you find out that there's a mulberry tree near you, go catch yourself a clipping and grow them yourself. And yeah, I think we've got questionable gardener Kim, Adam, then Southern Belle.
Yeah. So you were just talking about the tree climbing. There's a website. I'll put it down the purple pill in a couple minutes. That they actually list where there's public fruit trees and nut trees. You just type in your zip code or your area, and it'll show you where you can go and glean those for yourself. But you're talking about basil, how it tastes different after a couple days. I grow 9 different varieties of basil. And if you don't like licorice, avoid the Thai basil because it's really spicy and then very, very licoricey. But if you get lemon basil, it tastes 3, 4, 5, 8 days later, it still tastes like lemons, and it is really good in tea. But it is. I posted a picture down the purple pill. I ended up with an entire massive outdoor table full of it in like just a matter of weeks.
Dude, that's awesome. Did you post that link to that public resource for fruit trees and nut trees? Kim and Kelly J, we were just talking in the back channels about compiling some resources for where people can get sort of the best sourced food and raw dairy and stuff like that. I would love to have a website like that in because foraging is not nearly appreciated enough. And you don't want to necessarily do things like get dandelion from public places because of all the air pollution and whatnot. But even stuff like dandelion is just incredible for you for teas. You can roast it. You can use the leaves, the flowers, and even the roots. So it's awesome. And there's all sorts of this stuff all over the place. And the more we get in tune with all this stuff, the more we can spread it. Kim?
I love that idea of the foraging stuff because I enjoy going and finding food. Right, I just think that's really neat. Down in Florida, we have a thing called Nature's Classroom that you do when you're in middle school. And they take one of the things that they do is they teach you the different plants in your area, how you can get food out of them if you're stranded or whatever. So I love that idea. I mean, I didn't know that you could get, from palmetto bushes, you can get the heart of the palmetto, right? Or that you can actually eat the tips of Spanish moss if you pull the middle piece out. So there's all these different things that you can actually forage food for. But I did want to say that another thing that grows really well down here is okra. That's a fun crop, and the flowers are beautiful.
Nice. What is the best healthy cooking oil to fry okra in? Would it be like avocado oil?
Yeah, you want a high flat point. I love pickled okra. That's like my favorite. Then fried.
Nice. I know in the South, fried okra is a popular thing, and I've enjoyed it myself. Yeah. Southern Belle, then Adam, then I'm going to shut up and let Kristina run this again.
Hey, Southern Belle, it's so great to see you again. I wanted to mention.
Hey, Kristen.
Yeah, I'm so excited. But in it too, I wanted to chime in there that it does feel like a lot of these weeds present themselves. Like so many people in America have like heart problems, but then you look at, and I might be paraphrasing, you correct me. Guys, there's dandelions. It's almost like the dandelions are erupting everywhere, and we're at war with the dandelions. But it's like these dandelions that are in your yard can actually help with so many of your health issues, right?
Yeah, it's a kidney detox, I think.
It actually helps with your circulation and your heart. So
your liver as well.
Wow, did not know that.
It's so great to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hope you are as well. I had a question. I work with fibromyalgia, and bone broth, bone marrow is very good. I'm just trying to figure out what are other things that are good for patients that are managing that, because a lot of you're managing the inflammation.
Not for nothing, but I used to run the medical cannabis campaign in Maryland, and we had a patient advocate, and the only thing that helped her was cannabis, and it helped her profoundly. I'm not trying to convince you to get high. I don't know if CBD alone does the trick, but I know that she used cannabis for it, and it was a lifesaver for her.
Yeah, CBD doesn't do much for me.
Have you tried Charlotte's Web? There's a cream actually that my mother uses that her therapist gave her actually, and I'll send you a picture of it.
Charlotte's Web is the best.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Charlotte's Web out of Colorado.
Yeah, so it really helps her whenever she has pain.
It was an incredible story.
Yep, and there are other CBD only strains now, but that was the first one that they grew commercially specifically because they knew that it helped, and I love that because CBD alone, it's so popular now. There's a million products out there. A lot of them are bunk, but nothing really replaces, in most cases at least, like full spectrum plant medicine. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if that helps, even if it doesn't have THC in it.
Well, there's hundreds of different cannabinoids in that plant. Like that plant is so versatile and it's got so many good things in it. But when you start peeling off things, right? Now I understand why they did it for Charlotte's Web, but
well, we also have a cannabinoid system.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why it's so ridiculous that they banned this plant. And it's not just the cannabinoids either. Cannabis is also loaded with terpenes. And these are things that you often find in other plants: piperine from pepper, limonene from citrus fruit, pinene from pine trees and stuff like that. I'm really, not to turn this into a cannabis conversation, but here in Maryland, my home state, where they did finally pass a medical cannabis law, they are way more focused on educating the public on terpene profiles than any other state I've ever engaged with. And they can get it down to the point where they're finding exactly what you need. And then some of these dispensaries will even keep you on file to know what you bought. So when you walk in, you don't need to remember some obscure strain name.
Oh, cool. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, nice. Beautiful place. Yeah. You guys holding up okay after the hurricane?
Yeah, we're doing so much better. It really took Trump to get in before we really got financial resources, which was just unbelievable.
Horrendous. Yeah.
It was horrendous. But what's been amazing is people coming from all over the country to help out. We had a ton of college kids come here during spring break to help build houses for a lot of our seniors, which was amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, we went down and fed them. But I've never seen so much pizza move so quickly in my life. I forgot how college kids can eat. Wow. Especially the guys. But no, I'm just trying to get back to food. Now that we've got this hurricane back in, I come from my mom's side of the family. They own farms, and I'm just trying to get back in and trying to understand food for my health, because I'm on all these medications and I want to get off them. And I never got sick growing up because I ate farm food. Everything was organic. The chickens, the pork, the cows. We had a 4-acre garden that we shared with other people, so we canned a lot and fed a lot of people, which was lovely to help people out. I really enjoyed it growing up as a kid. But I'm just trying to get back to where I can manage pain, because I will never take a pain medication. I will never do that.
Another thing you should look into, Southern, is mushrooms, because there's so many different varieties.
Mushrooms?
They have lots and lots of mushrooms that do all kinds of different things, and they're so powerful. So check into that.
I mean, like reishi and turkey tail and things like that.
Yeah,
chaga.
Lion's mane.
Lion's mane
don't
for
forget
the brain.
lion's mane.
Love lion's mane.
Southern, there's a bunch of mushroom places around you. And I just put that down in the purple pill. And I also sent that to you in the North Carolina group. There's over 3,000 public fruit trees in Asheville.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? It's insane. Sometimes when we're walking, I bring wipes and I wipe off this fruit because my kids want to eat it right away. So I know it's got some pesticide or something on it. And they're like, Mom, that's alcohol. I go, no, it's already evaporated by the time I hand it to you.
Totally.
You're good.
Totally. Fun fact about shiitake mushrooms that I heard is if you dry them in the sun, it radically increases the concentration of, I think, vitamin D.
Ooh, portobello
in the mushroom.
If you flip the before you grill
vitamin D is a big deal for me.
Yeah. If you're gonna
vitamin D.
If you're gonna grill portobello mushrooms, the same thing. Flip them, gill up on the the side of the grill and let them sit for about an hour or two, and they will, I think it's triple their vitamin D content.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And fungi.com is run by my hero, Paul Stamets. And just to touch on that, lion's mane mushroom has shown some of the best propensity to help with things like Alzheimer's, because it rebuilds the myelin sheath, and they haven't found anything else that does.
Wow.
And a great starter in pill form is the Stamets 7. It's an immunity builder. It's a combination of chaga, shiitake, I believe some lion's
turkey tail,
cordyceps.
Reishi's in there. Yep.
Yep. They are.
How do you spell Stamets? STA?
METS.
Yeah.
And that's named after Paul Stamets. He is one of the absolute legends of mycology.
He's a fun guy.
Yeah, I would point out.
Fun guy. In fact, there's a documentary about him called Fantastic Fungi that's really wonderful and beautifully done.
Oh my God, I just found him. Okay,
I'll
awesome.
point out,
Thank you.
Paul Stamets has a thing where he talks about portobello mushrooms causing cancer. So if you're quoting that guy for portobello mushrooms, it's probably not in line with what he says.
Levi, you're absolutely right. He cautions against eating white button mushrooms, number one, raw. They have to go through a cooking process until you can really expose those nutrients. So he does recommend cooking all of your gourmet mushrooms just in a little bit of oil and whatnot. And the other reason he cautions against portobello mushrooms is because they're grown in China in these it's not always the most microbiologically safe process. So those are the two reasons that he does caution against. Button mushrooms are portobellas. They're just tiny. Against, those. But let's not escape the reality that I actually got to work on a project with Paul Stamets. We cleaned up the oil from an oil spill with oyster mushrooms, the one that hit the Bay Bridge. And it was, oh my gosh, I got to hang out with my hero. And there 6 ways that mushrooms can save the world. If anybody wants to go on the rabbit hole, start
They can
there
eat plastic.
and check off a month of your life. And back to hemp really quick before we go to the hands. I'm so excited. Paul von Hartmann has written a lot of books about the endocannabinoids, and we could probably have him as a special guest, Damo.
Wow.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell you really quick, Southern Belle, he does green milk. So if you have access to the actual green plant of hemp, cannabis, whatever, he blends it with milk, and he drinks green milk, and he will just talk for hours about all the benefits of that whole food kind of juiced process.
That's really interesting, because if you don't heat cannabis, it's not really psychoactive. It's called decarboxylation. It's a heating process with oil, generally, or burning it directly, of course. That turns what's actually called THCA, the molecule in cannabis, into just THC, and that's what's psychoactive. So fresh cannabis juiced. I've heard about that before myself. It's been a long time, but that's really awesome.
Wow. Well, yeah, because I'm in the medical industry, and we deal a lot with unmet patient needs. So we're kind of way ahead of what's on the market today. And one of the things they're working with hemp is combining a patient DNA to grow the hemp plant, and then use 3D printing to do pediatric hearts. So we don't have a suppression, we don't have an overreaction of the immune system fighting the organ, so they don't have to be on medications the rest of their lives. So, and it would allow us to move in sooner for a patient, because to be on a donor list, you have to be like almost done, but healthy enough to survive the procedure and have some sense of this patient can move forward. So it's a little tiny pocket of time, but it's very stressful to be that patient.
That's where I start getting into like how powerful and awesome it can be to focus as much as we can on low tech and back to the land and our heritage practices, and combining it with high tech, like cellular scaffolding, and using a patient's own genetics to regrow an organ. What an incredible idea. I just think that's beautiful.
Because we do a lot of work with obviously the immature cells, because where you plug them into, they adapt and become that like-ass cell. And we're doing scaffolding for patients with their knees, because they get literally, from all their steroid shots, they end up bone on bone. So it's a horrific pain. And a lot of times that's when you get a knee replacement. But where we can intervene with that soft tissue, we can work with stem cells to build scaffolding around that knee, so that maybe we can eliminate that need for a knee replacement surgery. So it's interesting, because I'm 68 and I've been in what I do since 1980 when I got out of college. And then my manager and I bought the company about 17 months later. And then I bought out his half 8.5 years after that, because I wanted to build a certain type business model to focus strictly on unmet patient needs and take that risk. He wasn't willing. I was younger. Young and dumb sometimes works. But anyway, working through that, we had very invasive procedures. Now we've moved to minimally invasive surgeries, which we brought out across the country. It took us a long time, because we had to change surgical suites, training, everything. It took forever. But now we're reducing risk for infections by not staying in the hospital. Patients can get back in their life literally quickly. They're not home. And it's just amazing what we're learning, and it's what we can't see. Ironically, is what's going to be the solution, which is so cool because we're getting back into that, and I'm so excited to be part of it.
You know what I just realized? I was just chatting with a friend, and vegetable oils are extremely inflammatory to
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about, you know, the Beef Initiative and their tallow and making your own broth and your cooking oils, hint, hint, segue for a room reset for our challenge. But it's so important to stay away from these vegetable oils and to get back to healthy cooking oils, because you're talking about inflammation being the problem. And
and there's a lot of sources of inflammation, but how we cook is a big source. How we eat and how we cook is a big source of inflammation.
But in that, the reality of that is most of our health conditions are as a result of inflammation.
Yeah, totally.
So inflammation, if we can bring that down, we're really creating a huge opportunity for patients, not just to live life, but live a very healthy life.
Indeed, and healthy sleep patterns and being hydrated. Getting sunshine and exercise and getting our feet in the grass and in the dirt. All these things can help reduce inflammation. For anyone who has just joined us, this is the Midday MAHA. We do these every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Today we're talking lazy gardening. Usually we're talking about MAHA-related issues in policy or just topics that we know the MAHA community cares about. Like Monday, we were talking about EMF radiation with a great guest. We're going to be talking about geoengineering, chemtrails, and stuff like that on Monday. We also have an X community called the Midday MAHA, just like the space here. And we're running weekly challenges, and those challenges do have a prize. This week, the challenge is to post your healthy cooking oils. So we'd love to see a picture or a short video and just a little bit of text telling us about your favorite cooking oils, the healthy ones. We'd love to see what brands you're running with so that we can learn from you or let you know if there's an issue with that brand, because a lot of times they'll market as healthy and they're not. So please do join the Midday MAHA X community. It's also where we're going to be getting to know each other better and sharing information in a more durable form and organizing and doing action calls to action and stuff like that. And the prize this week for the Midday MAHA Challenge is a $50 discount code to the Beef Initiative. They are wonderful. They've been hanging out with us and they've been such wonderful partners. The Beef Initiative is a great project. They have a website that helps you find ranchers near you, and they have whole pages for each rancher letting you know about their story and how they raise their meat, and it's just an awesome project.
When do we find out who the winner is, Damo?
We're gonna announce the winner for the first Midday MAHA the weekly MAHA challenge on Monday, probably at the end of the Monday space after we're done scaring everybody about chemtrails. And we might take a week off from the challenge just to review, because this is our first one. We want to see how it went and figure out if the process can go better, make sure we've got a good prize for the next one. But get in there now and post your favorite healthy cooking oils and get a chance to win a $50 gift card to the Beef Initiative.
You can even take a picture of your butter. Butter is actually one of the most healthy cooking oils, along with tallow. Post your picture in that community, guys. We're going to use Grok to number them and then have Grok pick a random number. At the end of Monday space. And
it's a pin post right at the top. So just go ahead and post your submission right there in the just post it right there in the post.
And I believe, thank you so much. And thanks again, Beef Initiative. You guys are amazing. Everybody here is so amazing. This energy is contagious. I love it. Levi, you've been so patient with your hand up. Then I think it goes Kim and then Adam. We'd love to hear from you, Levi.
Yeah. I was wondering how to get the young people involved in this movement and make it sustainable. And I think those two things kind of go hand in hand. when I was in university government as a student, we renegotiated the cafeteria contracts. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars over a decade, and the student government runs those. So if we could get more organic food into the cafeterias for these schools and stuff, that opens up a tidal wave of money for local small farms. Because,
dude, I love that.
And
I was in the student government when I was in college too.
Yeah, and so people don't realize that the money, as tuition is skyrocketed all across all 50 states, right? It's like really high. Student government is a percentage of that. So they often, their bank accounts don't get access to their bank accounts, but money rolls over every year because they don't spend it. So like when I was in my student government, we had hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank account, which is insane. It was like $70 million a year and nobody touched it for 10 years and it rolled over. And so like the student government alone has money that they can give to charities, nonprofits, and farms. And a separate thing from just the huge buckets of student money that is almost never utilized in their community. They spend it on some student things and then they throw the rest into a bank account, which student services uses illegally to give payroll to a lot of faculty, like this huge faculty. And students control that legally. But also, the cafeteria contracts are the biggest contracts in most towns and cities. And it's run by prison companies like Sodexo. So this is prison food we're giving our kids. While we're talking about healthy and changing things, we got to have our eye on the ball towards action and actually making the food better. And for these kids, because they're literally getting malnutrition. They're eating pizza and top ramen, and they have a lifelong, a lot of them lived in food deserts before that. So, their education and their long-term well-being is being harmed by this prison food, basically. So if we renegotiate these prison contracts, it's the largest source of revenue in the country. Like these prison contracts are what keep Big Ag alive. It's their consumer base through food stamps and through schools is like their biggest source of revenue. And so if we take after their revenue and reallocate it to local farms and local, ranchers and stuff, that's how you long-term change the money if you want to change the game,
Levi, they have moved the food contracts for kids in the cafeterias from DOE over to under RFK Jr.
No, they're negotiated by the students at the student level. But you're talking about, yeah.
You've got college level and you've got school level.
Right, like primary school, grade school, high school.
And I know we have some people in the room that can really update us on the policy, but a few years ago, we went to try to sell to our local school, grade school and whatnot. And the stack of paperwork you had to fill out was about 3 inches thick, and it was very prohibitive to small farmers. I've heard that has now been reduced, and I'd love if somebody would give us an update on that. But it looks like our gateway to get those healthy, locally sourced foods into schools is opening up, and you are so right to bring that up as a point, Levi. That is so wonderful and valid, and a great lever we could really push in to kind of change things for sure. For sure.
Yeah, and by the way, Levi connected with me because he is, I believe, the chair of the We the People Party. And I don't want to get into that just yet, Levi, but sometime near the end of the space, I'd love to give you a few minutes to tell us all about that, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, and thanks. Kim, go ahead. Man, great share.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week, creating instead of having, these crappy guidance counselors that are creating lots of problems and indoctrinating our children, we have a garden counselor, right? Where there's somebody who's specifically in each school to, create curriculum around it and grow gardens for these schools. And I know that's on the K through 12 stuff, but I love the idea of getting the college kids involved in it. I did want to say, though, for all of the people that are going to be, going out there and foraging for mushrooms, please be careful because there's a lot of very bad mushrooms, or they're not bad, but they're poisonous. And so they need to be, consumed in a controlled area. And there's ones that will make you see things. So just
some
don't
that
do
will
that.
kill you.
Yeah, you can eat every mushroom on the planet, but a bunch of them you can only eat once.
Exactly.
No, and go with a forager and make sure they eat it first. So They're kind of your litmus test. No, but
And I think hemp and mushrooms are going to save the world.
Yeah. No foraging, guys. Get your mushrooms from the grocery store for now until you decide to say grow your own shiitakes and do some spore logs. It's actually very easy and very fun. Fungi.com actually has like desktop a bag of spawn that you can grow, and you just put it on your kitchen counter and it will just bloom fresh oysters, or there's a bunch of different varieties you can actually grow right on your kitchen counter. So yeah,
it's a great gift.
Yeah, for sure, but no foraging for your own mushrooms if you don't know what you're doing, guys. Adam, go ahead, and then we'll go to Tico.
Well, aloha and mahala for the mic. Appreciate it. Yeah, I hope you like that play on words. Mahala, maha. Well, yeah. Anyways.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. I'm cheesy sometimes. It's okay. But definitely Southern. I did post that picture of the Charlotte's Web CBD cream. It's legal. Like you don't need medicinal marijuana card or anything to get that. The brand's on there, so you can check that out. Definitely, whenever my mother, she can't take aspirin, Tylenol, Advil, any of that because, of her liver issues. But, that's one thing that helps her whenever she has pain. She just rubs it on her stomach and it helps her out. So, like, pretty quickly within like 2 to 3 minutes. So, definitely something, and she'll rub it on her hands because she has some arthritis, things like that. It helps her out very well. So maybe that's an alternative, and it's natural and healthy. Oh man, yeah, this space is awesome. I love the hype, like you were saying, Kristina. It is like, we're talking about like, I don't feel alone anymore. Like it's just so good with MAHA being around. I love it. Like, these things like the Monsanto, the chemtrails, all this stuff. I felt like alone on so many of these things, and my friends would be like, yeah, okay, like conspiracy theorists, like, no, I'm just paying attention and you're not. So I love this like energy and movement and like everybody coming together, and I love that like we have these spaces on X so we could do this. I did post some pictures of what I do have growing in the backyard. I've got some eggplants, some peppers. I haven't bought scallions in a long while. Scallions are growing. I did not do the milk or the water jug with the scallions growing in it because that's my brother's soon to be wife. Yes.
You have to use glass.
Yeah, I know. We don't want microplastics in our balls, but so I'm gonna get on her case about that. But we've got the green tomatoes growing. We've got regular tomatoes growing. We've got quite a bit growing there, and it saves you money. It's much healthier. You make sure like you get organic soil. That's what that's one thing, and don't do the plastic thing there. I'm gonna make sure that gets switched out. But yeah, it's really great to be able to like just go in your backyard and just grab something. We have some peppers that are like hot peppers that are from the Philippines, and I haven't like the past couple of years I've been like steering away from hot food, but like or spicy food just for like digestive, like you don't want the runs and stuff, but these peppers are like really good. So like if I get a headache or something, I'll go grab one of those hot little peppers. I don't know what they're called, but they're from the Philippines. And, basically I'll eat some of that and it like helps me with neck pain and like, things like that. It's pretty crazy, but it's good stuff. I love the mushroom mixes. We've been on those for a while as well. You eat mushroom coffee. There's all sorts of great things. I've been doing mushroom blends and like, the lion's mane and all that good stuff. And you guys saw my post for the weekly MAHA challenge, Midday MAHA challenge. And, I do have all those oils. I've been on that tip for a minute. So like, I'm glad more and more people are like, coming around to that stuff because, like if we want a MAGA, we can't do that without MAHA, because that's all part of it, like making America healthy again and making America great again. I love it, guys. And thanks for having me up.
Totally, man. Absolutely. Always appreciate your shares, Adam. Tico, thanks for being with us today, man. How you doing?
Hey, good afternoon, Damo. Thanks for having me. Yeah, Maha proud for sure. The American diet is a powerhouse, you guys, right? And there's a lot of opportunity, I think, out there with what Adam even just described, which is either changing your diet, lazy gardening, a little grow your own, right? Depending on your space. Um, and the future really does kind of come back to what Levi was describing, which is what are we actually feeding our kids, our children? So I am a believer of what you said and described, Levi, is money is the incentive, and we need to uh, basically apply models and systems that lower the risk profile, because MAHA lowers risk. That's my big thing. Damo's heard me say it enough. Which is if we apply our model to that system, will our kids actually get a higher quality food with a lower risk profile with respect to either inflammation or bad health? Because I think that is, the target is are we making kids healthier? Are we making ourselves healthier by what we're eating? And then even coming back to what crops we're choosing to grow, right? Think about that. Most of the seed oils that you guys are talking about, we're actually choosing to grow those crops mostly because of regulation and policy and banking. And we think about something like that and we're like, why would regulation, policy, and banking determine what types of crops we can grow? And then not only that, but they're actually encouraging, paying, and rewarding people to grow crops that create seed oils that are unhealthy. So I think these are all, well, obviously paying for that bad behavior, rewarding it. But these are all questions I think we need to ask as MAHA proud people, and then apply their language and their system to themselves and say, hey, are you guys actually lowering the risk profile and improving the value, or are you increasing the risk? Which risk is inflammation, like Southern said.
And I'll double down on that, because my son was going, sorry to cut you off, but I put him in kindergarten and I got the dreaded email from the teacher. Your son has a lot of energy. And I was like, oh, you better get your grimy hands off of my kid. And I asked her, I go, are you seeing it during certain times of the day? How can I help you? I got no response. But that day, my son came home with his backpack, and he opened up his backpack and turned it over, in like a 1-pound rock. This sugary donut in this plastic container fell out and hit the table with a thud. And I was like, I didn't give this to you. Like, how did you get your hands on this? And, he did a little cafeteria, trade crafty as a kindergartner even. But this is what they were feeding him, was literally like a pound of sugar. And then he was going back into the classroom. Of course he had too much energy. Of course he couldn't focus. You know what I mean? I literally had, I ended up homeschooling him because I couldn't regulate his diet, and I didn't want them throwing my kids on drugs all because they were pumping him full of sugar. You guys know what I mean? Oh, traumatic. So it's so important.
Yeah, and just that story alone, I think everybody can not only resonate with, but we all understand that that is not the story we're trying to achieve as parents and citizens of this country. And applying more and more of those stories is the purpose, because what has really occurred is the population has been contaminated by all of these things. And that contamination component, it usually starts with food, but obviously I think in this case, food at the school, right? The kid isn't even getting a choice. We're just actually giving it to them. And then we're expecting some kind of different result than what we get. So coming back to Levi's point, if we can encourage and incentivize people to make money, young people especially, by applying new models that provide lower risk outcomes and higher probability of health, I think we're going to end up getting that message really resonates, because what we're talking about here is freedom and sovereignty.
Well said, man. Well said. Adam, and then Kristina, do you have more lazy gardening tips on your list?
Oh, I am full of them. But go ahead,
Cool,
Adam.
cool. Well, let's hear from Adam, and then let's get back to the lazy gardening tips.
Well, I wanted to go back to what Southern was talking about, and you know, I heard this maybe like in, I don't know, like 6-7 months ago, maybe more than that, in a space, in regards to like an old farmer's like sort of secret sort of thing. Is what they do is they take the seed and put it in their mouth, and that way you get some saliva on there and DNA. And supposedly, when you plant the seeds, you know, like somehow, I don't know, like maybe God, this is divine or something, but you know, the plant grows with like nutrients and things that your body is like deficient on. And just by like, you know, putting your saliva on it, it gets like your DNA kind of, and like knows your like what nutrients and like supplements you might need, and grows with like that sort of like capability to like, you know, give you the nutrition you need.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Something I'd really like to know more about that, if that's legit or
And
what.
it's really,
you know?
and I love the segue, because when I was coming up with my list for this space, something really stood out to me to tell you guys about, you know, how to get reconnected with your food in such of a way that like plants and they will speak to you, they will talk to you, they will kind of call to you. And I know that seems like a very hippie ideal, but 15 years ago, what you guys are talking about, how there's a pathway we don't fully understand yet, but some people believe you can swill a seed around in your mouth and then plant it. I'm not sure, I haven't seen all the science yet, but this science is now developing. But that came from intuition that, I mean, I had that intuition 15 years ago. And plants are intuitive. And as we learn to trust the food around us, and we trust our intuition, and we trust our body for like, what do you need? Do you really feel like you need those fresh tomatoes popping off the vine today? You know, that meat that's grown by a farmer with love and with care. And so lazy gardening is about getting back in touch with your intuition and take.
Oh my God. I have 2 accounts on my phone, and I tried to check a post, and the notification came from the other account, and I didn't know. Ah, that was so frustrating.
space in the meanwhile.
Yeah,
I'll get some more people back in here.
it happens.
Oh, that sucks. It was so good. We had such a good vibe. this conversation going, dude.
Oh man, yeah, that was such good flow. Of course. Well, valuable lesson learned.
Is lazy gardening that threatening, Damo?
Totally. You know it is. If it becomes a movement, we won't buy food at the grocery store anymore.
You know, we used to have, I put them in the hydro stores when I owned them. They were these posters from the World War II areas of victory gardens that the government would post of certain types of settings of people working their land or in the gardens to produce food so we could beat the Nazis.
Yeah, the victory gardens, right. No, that's exactly right. And actually, one of our co-hosts at the Club MAHA podcast is Dustin Stockton, and he has a victory garden challenge going, a MAHA victory garden challenge. Not that he knows how to garden. I was hoping he would be in here to learn from Kristina and a bunch of our other awesome, awesome speakers. But you know, that's
I
all
like to
good.
cry conspiracy and say we're doing way too good of a job at inspiring everybody, and they wanted to shut us down.
Let's run with that. We should totally run with that. It totally wasn't me being a dumbass.
What did you do? What did you do?
I don't want to talk about it.
You fat fingered the top right.
No. I've got the Club MAHA account on my app also, and I checked a notification and didn't realize it came in on the Club MAHA account, not my account. And of course, that just shuts the space right down. It's terrible.
Oh my goodness.
Like the app should know well enough that if you're hosting a space and it's going to shut the space, to warn you, are you sure you want to navigate away from your account? Because that would be really dumb.
You want training wheels? No.
Dude. Yeah, nah, totally. But look, I only just started hosting spaces like 2 weeks ago. It's the first time that's happened. Hopefully the last time too.
I do have a hard stop at 4 today. I'm so glad that everybody's hopping back in here. Rattlesnake, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to hop on to what you were saying earlier, and then you were circling back around to it about how we handle our plants and our animals. And I had a person come in the building that I was out, so I missed like 30 minutes of what everybody was talking about. But for us, we are completely on the train of how you handle your animals greatly affects their well-being, their stress levels, everything like that. So we rotationally graze through our summer grazing pastures, and part of our mentality is that we want the cow to move in a way that makes them think that they're in control. Like we're not making them move fast. We're not rushing them. We're not making them run. We want to see this nice, methodical, nice chain of cows going into the next pasture. And so we are really big on that. We will let people go, our hired help go, if we see any running or chasing after or trying to get that cow or bull to move in a way that makes them want to turn on you and fight you or things like that. So I was just going to piggyback on that yeah, it greatly, how you handle them greatly impacts their stress level, how much they're wanting to eat, how much they want to put on weight, all of that type of stuff.
You're so right. When I was 4 years old, I wandered out into the dairy farm pasture and they couldn't find me. They didn't know where I went, and they found me in the middle of like a mud pit. And they said I had about 20 cows circled around me, just sniffing me. Nobody was going to step on me, but they're like, hey, what are you doing? And my grandpa is a dairy farmer, and he's so funny, but he says that the cows produce the best milk when listening to country music, by the way. So if anybody wants to blast some country music to the cows out there, I hear they really love it.
Well, that's cool. I won't judge them for it.
Oh, I see what's going on.
JK. It was an acquired taste, but I've started liking the vibe.
But I just
spent more time in the South over the last year.
Yeah, I just love how well you guys treat your livestock, and that we can give you guys room to grow and more customers so that you can keep that, really cut out the middleman, keep that short chain of command, keep that transportation over the highways for, hundreds of miles, and like really take care of these animals that sustain us. It's
totally. And what was it? Carrie from Unbounded Grace Ranch was talking about how she raises her cows, and they've all got names, and she takes such good care of them. And on harvest day, she spends the whole day with them and just treats them so well. And that really struck me, because that's next level, and I think it's totally appropriate.
Yeah, and with the chicken farm, we used to play our music really loud, nice music on slaughter day, because you don't want the other chickens seeing what's kind of about to happen. But we would do a very, I won't get into it, but a very humanitarian process. And I will say some of the regulations call for you to do things like electrocute the animal beforehand. They think that's more humane, and we can deep dive on that someday. But it's really important to trust your farmers and trust that they know their animals, they know their livestock, and they know how to keep them happy. And it's so empowering to have those conversations with your farmers. It's so in Ranch Mama, I don't care if your husband wants to take out some of the poison ivy so that you're not miserable for weeks. I want that for you. And that's the power of having a relationship with your farmer and with your rancher. It's beautiful.
Totally. So Kristina, you still got a list of lazy gardening tips. We'll end up doing an episode 2 here, and maybe even do like a lazy chef and a lazy nutritionist space, so that we can talk about simple things we can do to improve those experiences as well. But let's get back to some of those tips, huh?
Yeah. And so I wanted to really be conscious that some people are in New York, some people are in Florida, some people just might have a condo space. So if you only have a little porch, then, you can do basil. And what I do love is the upside down hanging tomato plants. I find that
Topsy-turvy, right?
Topsy-turvy tomato plants. So I'm not sure if anybody here has ever gone ahead and done that, but if you haven't, there's nothing like tomato fresh off a vine, and there's nothing that will convince you sooner that energy and that fresh raw energy is a very real thing. I'll share one more story, and then we'll go to hands. I want to hear your stories too, guys. I just love to grow anything, again, that I could buy at the supermarket. I would go to, it's actually a Spanish Latin kind of open market in southern Florida, and they would have some of the potatoes that were no longer able to be sold for food. And I kind of worked out a deal with them. I was like, hey, let me pick through your scraps. And eventually we would get them in bulk for the chickens and whatnot. But even when I only had a little tiny backyard, I got a bunch of their sweet potatoes. And I was in a rental, and I planted these sweet potatoes in the backyard. And the landlord wasn't great about mowing the lawn. And about a tenant later, they come back, and I talked to him again, and he's like, but you wouldn't believe the backyard. All of a sudden, there's this vine that had just taken over the entire thing. And it's these big, beautiful vines, but we had to cut them back. And I'm like, no, you had a native population of sweet potatoes. So it's funny, you can use potatoes as a landscape tool. And if you ever find yourself starving, you can go dig up some potatoes, right?
I love sweet potatoes too.
Yeah, but there's 2 really cool techniques. One comes from permaculture. If you want to do a potato patch, you can lay down cardboard, throw some potatoes on there, maybe that have gone bad, cover it with some leaf litter, a little bit of soil, and just pile on. Potatoes love to be piled on too, and they're really not super intensive. You can Google some kind of bucket tricks. But the last main one I wanted to point out is lasagna gardening. And this was for...
You can grow lasagna?
Yeah, right? Lasagna speaks to the layers that you build up in order to grow. It's actually a layer of cardboard on the bottom. So you can have totally sandy soil, no soil. And you do a layer of cardboard on the bottom, and then you do a layer of straw. You do a layer of soil. You do a layer of hay, a layer of soil, and then another layer of straw. But what this does is it keeps the open air environment there for the microbes to really get the city underneath the soil going. And you build this mound. So now you have increased surface area. And my old roommate, my buddy, and I did this in Florida. And man, we grew peppers and lettuce, and we overseeded it. We didn't want to weed, so we just doused this with seed, and man, did we not have like the coolest hedgerow of just plants. It's I'll find a meme that explains the lasagna garden, but it's so powerful if you don't have an established bed, if you don't want to try to rototill, you just go right on top with this kind of layer of lasagna soil. Go ahead, Tico.
Yeah, 100%, Kristen. And the best, fastest, easy way to crack the code to lazy gardening is just as you described. We want to add biology to the model, and we want to reduce chemistry. And it seems too simple, but chemistry is actually what puts us in a lot of the problems we're in farming with respect to scale. But with respect to gardening, the individual, how you can apply the biology to your setting, whether you're in an apartment in New York or out on a homestead, how you apply the biology is an incredibly diverse group of tools and systems. And that's what you need to research, whether it's a permaculture, a worm casting, or a beneficial organism. At the end of the day, the biology introduced into your setting is going to get you better yields, better harvests, and faster route to lazy gardening.
Love it. I love it. The image I found is a little bit more complex. Just kind of take 3 layers of what I'm about to post. But yeah, let's hear more about some of your tips and tricks, guys, and some of your favorite plants that just volunteered for you. And go ahead, Adam.
Oh, I wanted to go back to I did look up on that the saliva and the seeds, and it says the practice of coating seeds with saliva before planting, with the belief that it can create superfoods that address nutritional deficiencies, is not scientifically supported. Plants cannot read human DNA or alter their genetic composition.
Now,
what's your source here, dude?
You say that.
This is Google
but,
AI.
But
yeah, it doesn't mean anything to me.
They have some source. I know, Google. But yeah, they're saying that it doesn't have the capability. But hold on, one last thing. Hygiene concerns. They give concern. It says spitting on seeds or soil can introduce bacteria or pathogens, potentially harming both the plants and the person. This is them saying.
So if you nasty, don't do it. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. If you got herpes, don't be coating your seeds.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
But what's really crazy is you're pulling up this data, but as Southern Belle was just telling us that they are using this in practice to keep organ donations away from getting turned away from the body. So they are. It might not be as simple as spitting on your seeds, but there is some serious science behind this. So we do have to keep an open mind. And again, if you're dirty, don't be spitting on your seeds, I guess. And
the only thing it says the reason being is saying there's no biological mechanism. Plants lack the biological machinery to absorb and utilize human DNA to.
Yeah, whatever. It might be true, but
I don't know.
We'll see.
That might be true, but whatever.
We'll see. And I'd love to say, because I was on the chicken farm and we didn't use any chemicals. We weren't using any pesticides. So what I would have chickens that would come down with coccidiosis. They kind of all do. It's a known chicken cold, right? But now I couldn't treat it with pharmaceuticals. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I research and I find out about coconut oil and oregano. And I just thought, oh, what is this hippie science? Coconut oil, I love it, but really it's going to save my chickens. And I swear to you, because there comes a time you get chicks and they hit about 2 weeks old and they become really susceptible to coccidiosis and all this bacterial life that they're now surrounded in. And if I would fortify them with the coconut oil and the oregano, I would have no sick chickens. And I didn't believe this was true until the first time I had 10 chickens on their deathbed, these little baby chicks, poor little baby things. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll try it. I put coconut oil in their water with the oregano. 8 of them I saved, and they were on their deathbed. And I was just a believer and convinced. And we brought that into our farm model to when chicks would get to about that age, we'd make sure to pre-fortify them. And the coconut oil works to give the chicken the enzymatic propensity to actually fight off and kill or deal with the coccidiosis. And so coconut oil saved the day. Here we go.
That makes a lot of sense. I when I was first trying to deal with my gut issues, I was working with an Ayurvedic doctor, sort of a holistic medical practitioner, and the first thing we did was like a parasite cleanse, like a detox cleanse. And the main things that he incorporated into my diet, along with getting rid of a bunch of stuff in my diet, was coconut oil, oregano oil, and clove oil. Were just great as anti-parasitics, anti-bad bacteria. It does kill some of the good bacteria too. So he made sure that I was taking probiotics and like good yogurt and stuff like that. Onions and garlic for their sulfur compounds. Berberine was good as an anti-parasitic too. It's plants, dude. We've been doing this for millions of years. Adam and Tico.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to agree with her, what she said there. The oregano, I'm a big proponent of oregano. Oil of oregano is the bomb. That saved myself, in 2020 during COVID. I took I woke up gasping for breath and just ran to the kitchen, grabbed some oil of oregano, dropped it under my tongue and breathed in the vapors, and it opened up my lungs, was able to absorb oxygen again. So that was like a lifesaver there. But one thing that I do if my cats ever got a urinary tract infection, I put parsley in their water. Parsley is very helpful. Actually, even if you want to cleanse yourself, make some parsley tea. It is a very good cleansing thing as well for your urinary tract system.
And parsley chelates heavy metals, I believe. Mercury and maybe some others.
Awesome stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is amazing. And you guys get me into something else. I know everybody doesn't have chickens, but just to kind of add weight to all of this, there's a agricultural practice. They gave it a fancy name called silvopasture. And basically what that is simply planting fruit trees or aromatic trees in with your chickens or in with your livestock. And in our chicken pasture, we had a tea tree, right? And it was so funny because my partner, the farmer, had planted it. And when I was trying to help my chickens we had big rains come and things swamped out. And when that happens, you get this bacterial overgrowth and and they were viral. They were just, and I'm like, what do I do? And it was like, oh, tea tree. And here I have this tree. And so I would break the branches off and kind of cut it up and put it in their water. And I would drop some of the branches and thin out the tree. It was great for the tree, but it was also great for the chickens. So kind of building this silvopasture tree relationship with the livestock worked out great. And papaya seeds are anti-parasitic. And like I said, they were growing like weeds. So it's just, if you can kind of think of a forest and the way that it kind of has this closed loop cycle. I mean, these things have been living with each other for millions of years. And if we can start to observe those patterns as we're walking around scattering our seeds, if we can observe these patterns, we're going to find more intuition, more cures, more healthy things for our own bodies and perhaps our chickens. Definitely get chickens.
Definitely want to say after the last space, I went and started watching some farming videos and because I've been eyeing a 10-acre lot plot of land that's already like cleared out, and it seems that they dumped. I already asked somebody about it, but they dumped like 5,000 pounds of lime that like helps add nutrition, but like or balance the pH. That's what it is. But I was just watching videos after the last space, about farming and regenerative, farming and that such. So definitely inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've got some rock star farmers in the speaker lounge. Henny, I won't call you out, but I just called you out. If you want to come up and share a little bit. And Ed is always our champion of regenerative farming. And I'm loving also, we know a lot of these studies in the past were kind of prohibitive because people would have to sponsor it, and it was usually the veiled interests that were sponsoring these studies. But Ed introduced me coincidentally to the DSci, decentralized science community, and it seems that people are kind of even using crypto or small communities to help fund these studies that we kind of see with our intuition and that we venture down for these natural cures and this natural health. And I just think it's really amazing. And I really hope you get that farm, mister, that plot of land you're talking about, for sure.
I'm eyeing it.
I'm eyeing it.
I'm checking out, pricing in different markets and different areas, but I do want something in Gainesville because that's the highest elevation in Florida. So I'm thinking for the future.
And a life hack for a startup farm like that is if you meet up with local landscapers, they have a lot of good clean waste. You don't want bad waste, but we put down about 2.5 feet worth on actually 2 different acres of just mulch. And it broke down a lot faster than I thought it would. It would have broken down even faster if we let oyster mushrooms come in, if I had inoculated it with more spores. But if you're going to be building soil, that clean waste, you can, make big piles of it, and eventually it'll break down into dirt. That's oversimplified, but we have so many resources around us. So to think like a lazy gardener is to look at the resources you already have at hand. Save your food scraps. You don't need to have an avocado seed in the window in the little glass of water with the toothpicks. Save your scraps, dig a hole, and throw it in there. If you're in a climate zone where those things will grow, just throw it in there and see if it volunteers. Go ahead, America.
I actually had a question from the pill chat, and whoever would know this answer, how much parsley in your water every day for how many days? That makes sense? How much parsley would you put in the water? I think it's you were talking about, Adam.
Oh yeah. Usually like what I'll do is like for that sort of like tea, I'll take like a whole bunch of parsley, like you could buy from the supermarket, organic parsley. You could get Italian or whatever kind of parsley, and just chop it up a bit and put it in the water and like slowly boil it, like on like not like bring it to a boil and then let it simmer. And let it sit there and let the water turn green on like a low temperature, and then eventually just strain it and drink the water. That should cleanse you out pretty well. There's no harmful effects to it, I don't believe. It'll just help clean your urinary tract system out pretty well.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, that's really great. That's really great. And if
you could store it in the fridge after, like, you know, you're making a pot full of it, so you don't have to, you know, drink the whole pot full. So you could drink a cup and then, you know, drink a cup later in the day, maybe 2 times a day. Well, it's up to you. It's just you'll see benefits.
That's great. And Damo, this kind of really begs the question. We'd love for your ideas on future challenges to do, because as we get into kind of, you know, lazy gardener hacks, but what about around your house, like home health hacks? Like, for example, I use coconut oil instead of lotion, organic cold pressed coconut oil. I had an 8-pound baby and I should have had stretch marks, but because of the coconut oil and the coconut oil baths, I never had stretch marks. So there's some of these, and if you think about that your skin eats, it makes so much sense to use even food products on our skin. And I think we should really kind of do like a home health hack session. Does that, a life hack session at some point, Damo? Does that make any sense?
Oh, totally. I think a lot about the house cleaners that people use, right? They bring in the Lysol and the bleach and all this other stuff. But there's great products out there like Dr. Bronner's soap, and there's using like
Vinegar
just simple white vinegar. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Just really simple, basic stuff that's also extremely cheap versus using these harsh chemicals on the surfaces that you're coming into contact with all the time. I think a lot of people don't know that the dishwashing detergent that most of them use is toxic. And if your dishwasher isn't super efficient, you end up with a film of that stuff on your dishes, and then you're touching them and you're eating off of them. And yeah, I think it's a great challenge. We'll throw that on the list.
That's why I run my dishwasher for a second cycle, just on rinse.
Yeah, rinse cycle for sure.
Yeah, and it's so funny because Blue Dawn dish soap I believe it has formaldehyde in it. And if we would get fleas or whatever on the Pyrenees or whatnot, it would wipe the fleas off of them. It would kill all the fleas. And it had to be the Blue Dawn. So on one hand, it's toxic. I had to get rid of the fleas, guys. So I had to do, compromise. But so on one hand, it's toxic, but on the other hand, it actually turned into a little bit of a home health act that I won't advocate for entirely, but I think
when I was looking into soaps and detergents and something like stuff like that, a connection I made that blew my mind. So there's a brand you guys probably have all heard of, Palmolive. Why do you think they call it Palmolive? I'm pretty sure the original recipe was like palm oil and olive oil. And now it's just nonsense, right? It's surfactants and chemicals and all this nonsense. It's like hidden right in the name that it used to be a plant-derived natural cleaning product. And just little by little, probably as it got taken over by major corporations and private equity or hedge funds or whatever, whoever's degrading the quality of our products just based on input costs and shitty contracts. But yeah, that kind of thing, it just blows my mind and kind of pisses me off. So we've got about 9 minutes left, and I did want to give Levi a chance to tell us about the We the People party, to get back into a little more of this like MAHA electoral, let's get some good candidates in office. Levi, tell us about it, man.
Yeah, so coming out of the campaign we did the last few years, a few states have ballot access. Some of them didn't even know they had ballot access because Kenny had done so well, regardless of putting them on. But basically, we had 30 state access, and it's gone down to 5 or 6 states now.
Wait, what does
but
that
it's
mean?
still like We the People's a party legally and has ballot access.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we're growing faster than most third parties do because I've actually probably, this is not to brag, it's just as a fact, is I've probably made more third parties than anybody in America that I can think of or that I've met over the last couple of years. And we can do this so much better. We have a beautiful opportunity ahead of us for the next 2 years to the midterms to grow into a really large third party that can run MAHA candidates down ballot. So we need new blood, new people, new ideas, and to hold people accountable with our coalition partners. And the only way in a coalition you get respected is if you have leverage and you're big enough to bargain with. Otherwise, you get bulldozed and your agenda doesn't get heard. Your candidates don't get heard. So you need to grow to help sustain the movement long term and to hold people accountable on both sides of the aisle. So one thing that people overlook with both ballot access and with money in politics is that the reason we have such a high expenditure is because they only run 5% of races, which means 95% of races are just free-for-alls. They have no money in them, and they have nobody running. It's one candidate. So it's one candidate, and for local and state offices, they actually have more money than the federal government. So like a water board in California, if you run people, they probably have 5 to 20 people voting to get the seat, 20 votes of a giant city like LA or San Francisco. But in LA in particular, they control $2 billion. So you can run local people to control water boards that help all the farms in one of the world's biggest economies, because water is essential to all the farming and agriculture and everything, life. And it's horribly negotiated. Right now they run DEI workshops out of their water budget, and which is whatever, but it has nothing to do with water and the farms and the people. So we're trying to bring power back to the people and get normal people into office all across the country, and especially we're going to try to run people in Lahaina, East Palestine, and North Carolina, so that these are the communities that are not going to get helped because they're single party areas where the Republicans aren't trying to run people, and the party that ran these cities so badly, they're all still in office pretty much, and they're not even getting challenged. So they did like East Palestine, and like 98% of the people are going to get reelected and keep their jobs. So we have to actually challenge these people at the local level with average everyday citizens who are getting into office, and then collaborating with other third parties, other movements, trying to build a holistic movement that allows us to leverage this new movement of MAHA into a reality. And
absolutely, man,
we don't have to. So what a lot of people make mistakes is they think you need a bunch of money. That's not actually true. The way we did it on the campaign, like for example, in Florida, it's one of the easiest states to make a party. You need 2 people legally and maybe 20 people if you want like a board and some basic membership. But we paid millions of dollars to get to Florida. And then we ultimately went within our third party. So this is happening all across the country. It's standard practice. Ford Party, the other big third party, they spent $150 million in 5 years, only got on 2 states. We're already on 5 states for free. So we've already beat out $150 million funding.
Are you in Tennessee yet?
No. But
I hear their ballot access is very low weight. It's like 25 signatures for a district, and that might even be for, it's like very low.
In Pennsylvania, it's like 2 people to start it. Florida's 2 people. Like there's all these places with low hanging fruit that if we're really trying to build a decentralized movement where the people have power, which is non-existent in America, all third parties are controlled by 5 people in the executive at the state level. Libertarians, Greens, so basically the people can't vote on who they want to be the candidate. It's not possible. They're handpicked by the leadership who can also be legally bribed. So you can legally give money to the 5 people. And that's why we don't have a sustainable movement, because the third party is perpetually getting bribed, getting sued, getting all these things. And we're paying 10 times more than a Democrat to run for the same position, because we have to deal with lawsuits, we have to deal with ballot access on top of running. Like we realized that Bobby, 80-90% of that budget went to ballot.
Yep. So in the courts,
we have to learn,
specifically fighting in the courts, which was also time he couldn't be on the campaign trail because he was in the courts fighting for his access.
Yeah. And that can be avoided by us learning from that and going, okay, guys, what can we do to make it cheaper and easier in the future? And that's to get ballot access in the states that's easy, about 25, 60 states, which allows you to go to your candidate to get on the debate stage for free day one. And it lowers the burden of lawfare lawsuits because, when a party nominates, it's hard to sue. So as opposed when you collect signatures and there's a 60-day window. So I don't want to bore you with too much stuff. Basically, trying to make it so that our members can vote and new candidates and a decentralized party that allows collaboration with all the other third parties.
Oh man, this is awesome. So look, I want you to connect with America Mission here, who's on stage. And I also want you to connect with the Council on Domestic Relations. It's a couple of really good friends of ours that are trying to sort of catalog all the initiatives that are going on across the country, the bills that we need to sort of fight for or against and that sort of stuff. And over the next year and a half, as we move into those midterm elections, I would love for you to be here with us and collaborating on how we can make sure to maximize the number of candidates we can get, especially down ballot. These cities, these counties, these states, like, let's do this, man. We have a 2-minute hard cap here, but Levi, we haven't picked a topic for Wednesday yet. Hit me up in the back channels and maybe we'll have our first sort of like third party conversation on Wednesday.
That'd be wonderful.
Sweet, man. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you reaching out. And real quick, let's get Questionable Gardener and then Southern Belle, and then we got to roll.
Actually, Levi, I just dropped something in the purple pill. Just if you don't mind messaging me, I'd like to talk to you more about that one candidate thing, especially California and North Carolina.
Awesome.
This is wonderful.
Yep. Anybody who's interested in this and the We the People Party and low hanging fruit ballot access and all that stuff, follow Levi. Look him up. I'm sure he's fired up. He sounds really knowledgeable. Pick his brain. Did we have someone else that wanted to say something?
Me.
Hey, Southern.
Yeah, same thing. I'm in North Carolina. North Carolina is easy or hard? That's I got a phone call, so I lost part of what you said, Levi.
So we were on in North Carolina, but they've, a bunch of stuff went on behind the scenes, but they will be getting back on. We have some strong leadership there, and they should be able to get back on relatively easy.
Okay.
Awesome.
North Carolina is very important for helping the people who were devastated by the hurricanes and actually serving them to make sure mayors and local officials who control the budgets for these rebuilding efforts don't do it to multinationals. They do it to the people and the community.
Well, I am in Western North Carolina, and we got Roy Cooper was governor, and he vetoed the funding bill for us for aid. We had very little locally. They were making people pay their property taxes when their house was gone because they didn't want to shut the schools down. And we really and FEMA was a dismal nightmare. They were saying they were doing things, but they weren't. So people just called us liars.
Yeah, I fought FEMA many times before because I was in international development running those projects. And basically the vendors get paid. So they take the emergency funds and they pay their vendors out of state, and almost nothing goes to the people.
Exactly. Then they set up rented an entire building with 9 floors to put these people in Charlotte, North Carolina. You had an issue, you had to go there. And they shut down locally here. I mean, what they did, they actually cost us money, what they did. But Trump made a promise. We were his first trip. He came, and Kristi Noem, Sean Duffy, J.D. Vance, Trump's team, General Flynn, a lot of people on X brought resources. But once Trump stepped in, we got everything. And during spring break, college kids from all over the country came here to help build housing for our seniors, because we have a lot of senior population here. It's been pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
I just put the link.
We're trying to work on the farmlands now because they got destroyed, all the topsoil gone. So there's a lot of, one guy brought trucks and trucks and trucks of good soil for the farmers. It wouldn't take a penny. Our community here in Western North Carolina, we have a high tourism rate because of Biltmore House. It's pretty here when the leaves change because we're in the mountains, Blue Ridge Mountains. So people come here for Thanksgiving, Christmas, the Greta Grove Park Inn, and all these different big things. But we also have a lot of Floridians who come here during the summer with a second home. because we have one of the best hospitals in the country, and we have one of the best VAs in the country, because we attract such great people, and we have a lot of holistic health here as well. And we're big on farm to table, but that survives with our farmers, and they've lost a year basically. So everybody's just helping everybody right now, because we don't want to lose our farm to table here. We just don't want to lose it. So we're getting there. We're getting there. But Western North Carolina, they want to take our land for the 15-minute cities and some of the rare earth. So there's another war going on, but it is what it is. But I'm very excited about what you're doing, Levi, and I want to learn more about it.
Awesome. We're definitely going to bring Levi back. I'm really thrilled. And yet again, even without it being a policy-focused space, we've made another awesome connection, and this coalition gets stronger. So as you can see, especially those of you who've been coming back and again, every time we do this, we circle up tighter and wider, and it's awesome. I hope everyone gives a follow to all of our great speakers, to Club MAHA, myself, and Kristina. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Monday, we're going to be talking geoengineering and chemtrails. I think Billy and the Council on Domestic Relations are trying to circle up some good speakers for us. Wednesday, we might do a sort of like third-party midterm election preview space with Levi and see if we can get some other folks in for that conversation. And please join the Midday MAHA community. The link is right up at the top in the nest. And if you want to play along, you can win a $50 gift card to the Beef Initiative if you post in the pin post your favorite healthy cooking oils that you got in your kitchen. We'll be picking a winner for that on Monday. Thank you guys so much. I love doing these so much. Everybody that's been supporting America Mission, Beef Initiative, just everybody. Kristina, you're the shit. I hope to see you all again Monday. Have a great week.